What's going on, Combat Sports Nation? This is Sean here with the Cage Titans professional bantamweight champ, Jay Perrin. Jay, man, thanks for taking a little bit of time with me. How are you doing? I know you said you were taking a little bit of time off. I don't know if that just meant from the cage or if that was just from the gym.
Oh, just from the cage, just for the rest of the year. I'm still going to be training and stuff like that, but I just didn't want to, put my body through another full camp or, cutting another, 20 pounds to get down there. 5 times in a year is a lot. So I just decided to take one Cage Titan events off, and I'll be back in the next one.
You definitely saw some activity recently in your division between Table Titans and the matchup between Dan Dubuque and Johnny Campbell. What do you think about the matchup?
That's interesting. I think it's an interesting matchup. I was more excited about other matchups that I had been told were happening. They're not, so I guess, whatever. But I think it's interesting. I don't really know the implications of that matchup, to be honest, because there's so much going on with the 135 division now. So I don't really know where we go from there. You know what I mean? So I think it's cool. I think it'll be a good fight, but I'm not really sure what happens with the winner. You know what I mean?
So Dan, it was rumored that if he waited for your return, he would be getting the title shot. That was my understanding. So now that he didn't want to wait, he's fighting Johnny. So MMA math, if he beats Johnny and Dan was going to get a title shot next, do you think Johnny deserves the title shot if he was to beat Dan decisively?
If he wins decisively, sure. I'll give him the rematch, sure. I told Dan to his face right after the fight with Johnny that if he can make weight in November or whatever, or he can make 35, then I can give that in January. I said that to his face at the after party. If Johnny wins in decisive fashion, then sure, we can run it back. I mean, I don't see it happening any other way than it did before, but we can do that again.
I wasn't sure if you were going to necessarily take the road, and it sounds like a little bit that you did, which there's nothing wrong with it, about fight at 35, verify, make sure that you can make it, and then sure, I'll give you that shot. I mean, am I far off from that?
No, I don't think that's a lot of me to ask, especially for somebody that's the 55 champ.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You're not just dropping one weight class, you're dropping 2, man. So it's like, I need to know that you can at least make championship weight before I put my belt on the line for you. You know what I mean? I don't think that's unfair or like a bitch move in any way. You know what I mean? So, I don't think that's unreasonable. If it is, then I guess I'm a weird guy. But going from 55 to 35 is quite the jump.
Yeah.
So, I mean, even if he's hovering the way that he's saying he is, I still just want to make sure, man. It's not like I'm afraid. People are claiming that I'm afraid to fight him because of that. And I'm like, no, dude, I just don't want him to show up at 38 and then have no fight. You know what I mean? That's it.
The excitement in that Randy Costa brings to the idea of a possible fight. Could you see that? Let's say you defend in January, regardless of who it is. He rattles off a couple more. I mean, you're 7-3. He's only 2-0. But could that be a fun fight you'd be interested in?
I mean, me and Randy are really close friends. So I'm not afraid to fight anybody. I love Randy, and we train a lot together. So he's one of Ribs' guys, for what I understand. And Ribs is an OG Sityo Tong guy. So I don't know if that matchup would ever happen. I know that when we spar, it's a banger every time. So Randy's a great guy. Randy's one of my favorite people in the world, in the MMA world. I don't think that matchup is ever going to happen, to be honest, just because of how our teams are so closely knit together. But me and him in a cage, hypothetically, would be fireworks. The kid's exciting. I think that kid's going to the UFC. If I don't make it, that kid's going to make it. You know what I mean? I'm not going to sit here and say that Randy Costa has better hair than me, because he doesn't. But he's a very talented fighter, and the kick that he landed in the last fight was great. It was, I didn't really know who the guy he fought was, but he would have done that to pretty much anybody. His kicks are ridiculous. He's got great striking. He comes from a great team in Lozon's, and so yeah, I don't know if that matchup would ever happen just because how close we are, but it'd be interesting for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. And you're right. I mean, it's not that it was a brush to the guy's head. It wasn't. It was not a brush to the head. It was flush.
That was a clean shin to mouth kick. That was nuts. It was crazy. So, yikes, dude. That would hurt anybody. That was painful to watch.
Now, you mentioned Randy at some point in his career going down and making it to the UFC. But
for sure,
the realization, or have you had the realization yet, that with every win through Cage Titans, that it is very well possible you could be called up to whatever outlet, but on the next level with the UFC?
I try not to get too ahead of myself. I feel like a lot of people start knocking on the door like I am right now, and then they kind of puff out their chest and their ego becomes a big part of it. I'm just trying to as much as it seems like I'm a cocky prick, I know that each win is very valuable, and to lose momentum right now would be really bad for me. You know what I mean? It would just go back to square one. So every fight that we take is the fight that we focus on. But I know that if I string together another 3, maybe even 4, maybe even less than that, I'm definitely on the edge of doing that. So I know that it's almost there, but I just got to stay the course and keep focused.
As a first-time champ, how's it feel being the guy everyone's gunning for?
It's funny, man. At first, I knew that was going to happen. I didn't think as many people would, turn against me so fast, because it's like 5, There's a lot of people that are really like upset with me for some reason just because I have the belt. But it's funny. Having a target on your back is, you can take it one of two ways. You can light a fire under your ass, which it has for me. Or you can, take offense to it for whatever reason and take it personally. It's business, man. Business is business. So they want the belt. I have it, just like I was with Johnny. Like Johnny had the belt. I wanted it, and they're going to go after it. And it's just my job to make sure that they understand that this is mine, and it's going to stay mine until I decide to go to the UFC and give it back to them.
You want to take a minute, break down how you see the matchup going with the very, very durable Dan Dubuque and Johnny, the exciting Johnny Cupcakes Campbell. From an analyst standpoint. Johnny is super tough, obviously. I hit him with some really good shots in that fight, and he just stayed coming. So I think Dan's in for a handful with that. He's very creative. He threw like a spinning back fist, spinning tornado kick at me once. Actually, in the fight, after he threw it, I kind of laughed because it was so ridiculous, but I didn't see it coming. So, he's very unpredictable, Johnny, when he wants to be. Dan, the only thing about Dan, he's very solid. He's got good technique. He leaves his chin a little bit high. That's about as far what I've known from studying him myself, because obviously I've studied all of these guys by now and I've watched their fights. Dan leaves his chin a little bit high. Johnny's got a big overhand. He clipped me with it more than a few times. So that would work to me. Yeah, he hit me. Well, that was the elbow. He hit me with an elbow, short and close. With that, I remember when he cut me open. But he hit me with a few good overhands with his left and a good right hand. So I'm interested to see if Dan can work that. Neither of them move their head very much. So it should be a war, man. I think Dan's a wrestler. Is he a wrestler originally? No, I don't know. He's just well-rounded.
That's what I'd say. He's very well-rounded. I think it's a good matchup. Let's see. I think that Dan and his camp kind of took what I did as far as like me being the bigger guy and being able to muscle Johnny around as kind of a strategy. As much as people have criticized me for that, I could physically impose my will on Johnny as much as I wanted to that whole fight. And I think that's kind of the plan for them. It's a good one. We'll see how Johnny deals with the size.
You made the blueprint.
Yeah, I think that, the clinch and stuff, maybe it won't be as clinchy because Dan's a little bit taller, so he'll definitely have the reach on Johnny more than I did. So I think that it'll be interesting. In the outside exchanges, I think that Dan's going to be able to land a little bit more. If Johnny can get in on him and take him down, that makes it a little bit more interesting.
Who would you want to fight if the winner was up next?
I would rather fight Dan, not because Johnny's, I'm ducking Johnny. I've already fought Johnny, I think that me and Johnny made a lot of noise with the last one, just from a marketing standpoint. Me and Dan is a new matchup. It's a new, fresh thing. I'd rather do that. and have, keep people interested instead of, mull over the same thing. But if someone deserves it, I always give credit where credit is due. If Johnny goes in and starches him, then then he deserves it, and then he'll get it. But of the two, I'd rather the different matchup. I like to get different looks, and I'd like to challenge myself against different fighters. You know what I mean? Even though Johnny's got more experience, beating the same guy twice doesn't really do much for you. You know what I mean? And especially if I think it's better for the 35 champ to take on the once was 55 champ and gain from that. I think there's a lot more for me to gain from a win over Dan than there is over Johnny at this point.
Yeah, without a doubt. So you could be fighting in January, or you will be fighting in January.
Whatever the date is in January. I actually just texted Pulver asking what the date is. Yeah, I plan on coming back in January. I'm trying to stay active. I just wanted to take November off because, if like I said, 5 fights in 1 year, that's Cowboy Cerrone type stuff. Yeah. And that's way too many, in my opinion. That's a lot of fights and a lot to do to your body, especially if the next year, if I'm gearing up to try and make a run at the UFC. I don't want my body to break down because I'm just constantly in camp. You know what I mean? So I just don't want to cut weight, especially during Thanksgiving, because I enjoy turkey and such. So, after Thanksgiving, I'm going to start, really cutting the weight. I'm in shape now, but I'll be in fight shape by the end of November, early December. So going into the early parts of the camp. So I got a plan. There's a plan to it. Method to my madness always. So in January, I plan to come back and defend my belt.
I want to revisit the bold statement that you made about Blair that ultimately proved true. How long did you have those feelings, and do you think that played a role as far back as your fight?
Absolutely. I believe that wholeheartedly that he was on steroids when he took my fight. There's no when we fought, he weighed in at 136. I'm going to put quotation marks under that. I think they kind of gave it to him because he's looked rough at that weigh-in, and then we did the ceremonial weigh-ins 4 hours later for Bellator, and he was 20 pounds bigger. And I'm like, dude, I even looked at Scott Coker, and I was like, what? I'm like, look at this guy. There's no way. He's got veins coming out of every orifice of his body. I'm like, come on, man. He's 40 years old, and he looks like this. Let's be real, dude. That's people won't say it because they don't want to call somebody else. To be honest, the guy is clearly on something. You know what I mean? He never gets tested. And then the one time that he does, oh, look, he popped. No way. You know what I mean? I don't know. I felt that. I wanted that rematch forever. I wholeheartedly believe I won that fight. I'll take every loss like a man. If I lose, I lost. But in that fight, I got robbed. There's no way. I beat the shit out of him for 3 rounds, and he got the hometown nod. And then now he's popping for steroids, and it's probably been happening far before this. You know what I mean? So I don't know. You make your bed, you sleep in it, kind of thing.
What are some words that you have for these guys that are vying for your belt? Give them something to think about if they're victorious and you're up next.
Be very, very aware that I will be there in November watching very, very closely. You guys all think that I'm not watching, and I have. I've studied you up and down, left and right. I know all your tendencies. I know all that. Johnny especially, I already fought you once, guys. So be prepared that I'm going to be way better the next time should you win. As far as Dan goes, me and Dan have always been respectful to each other face to face. But, Doug, if you're coming for what I have, I'm going to take you out and send you back in a bag. So, bring your best on November and let me see something, because if you don't impress me, dude, I don't know what to tell you, because come January, it's pretty much over for you at that point. There's nobody in this division in New England that's got anything for me, dude. So I'm smarter than you. I'm stronger than you. My IQ in the cage is better than yours. So no matter what you do, no matter how you finish, I'm going to be better. So come January, get ready for that defense.
Hey, thank you so much, Combat Sports Nation. Appreciates you. We appreciate your time. Glad we were able to make this happen. We'll see you in November if we don't make it up to sit before then.
For sure.
Thank you, my friend.
Absolutely, my man.
Follow us on Instagram. Watch us on YouTube. Check us out on Facebook. Visit us on Twitter. And stay tuned.